welcome to another Outside the Box Reviews. Today, once again, we have Figure Wars. Today we are looking at the Friday the 13th remake figure of Jason Voorhees. On the right here we have the older of the two, which is the Mezco Cinema of Fear version. Came out the same year as the movie, 2009. Just a little bit before the movie actually was theatrically released. And on the left here we have the 2010 NECA version. And while the NECA version came a little later on down the line, about a year and a half after the initial Mezco version, at about the same time the Mezco one came out, NECA released a figure very, very similar to this one in an 18-inch scale. So the basic idea for this Jason was already in place around the same time this one was released. It just took them a year and a half to shrink it down. For this, the second installment of Figure Wars, I'm going to try to refine the process a little bit, add in a few more little things here and there, review them in a little different way than I did the Ash figures back on the first Figure Wars, and hopefully it'll be an overall better experience to watch. First off, we're going to take a look at accessories, and that's a place where the Mezco figure has quite a few things, well, at least for a figure in this scale and what we're kind of used to getting. First and foremost, the most essential part of any Jason figure, he comes with his machete. This machete is pretty similar to a lot of the other Mezco machetes as far as length goes. The blade is pretty nicely shaped. There's a very extreme angle here at the end. There's all kinds of cuts and pits and grooves in it to show wear and age. There's a blood splatter right down here. Though I hesitate to call it a splatter, it's more of a crescent? I guess a blood crescent down here. It really doesn't look like he's been chopping people. It looks like somebody just applied red paint, which is what it really is anyway. The handle's got a nice shape to it. You got the two metallic rivets in it. Also, you can see wood grain and cracks and all that stuff, which is a nice touch. He holds it very easily. Just pops right there in his hand. No big deal. Next up, he has the ice pick. This is probably the nicest of the weapons, I think at least. The blood splatter on it looks really cool. It definitely looks like you just took this and jammed it in someone's neck, and you can just imagine the damage this thing would do. It's just brutal. Not a way I would like to go, I gotta say. Lots more of the distressed metal look on the ice pick. You come down to the handle. It's either a black or a very dark brown. It's kind of hard to tell. There's a lot of distressed marks on it as well. And a little metal end here. Same as the machete. Pops in his hand. Couldn't be easier. Last but not least is the weapon that brought about my favorite kill in that movie, or at least one of my favorite kills, is the axe. This one's really well done as well. The blood splatter does look nice and natural. And the whole head of the axe is well done. You get all the distressed marks on the black. It's silver on the tips here. I don't know if you can make it out well on camera, but it actually is a ragged edge. It looks like it's seen some wear and tear. The handle, wood grain, also distressed, just like everything else in this set. Nicely done. This one takes a little more effort to get into his hand. The handle is a little on the large side, so you kind of have to pry his fingers out a little bit. But he'll hold it, and it stays in his hand pretty well. When it comes to NECA, there is significantly less accessories. The main one is, well, the only real accessory is the machete. Though I have to say, as far as movie accuracy goes, this takes the cake. This looks a lot more movie accurate than the Mezco one. The Mezco one's nice as a machete. This is nice as the machete from the Friday the 13th remake. The blade is nice and long, has kind of a dull metallic sheen to it, which is really nice. There's also almost a rusty patina over the top of it. It looks really cool. The angle is less extreme here. It looks more like a real machete. The handle is a similar shape to the Mezco version. It has more detail. You can kind of see where the finger grips would be in here. has the place for the rivets, and then it has wrappings on it, which is movie accurate. Just an added little detail that makes it that much better. Obviously, for the most part, this is probably going to be in the figure's hand, so you're not really going to notice the wrappings on the handle, but it's nice to know that they took the extra time to put that in there. It's a very nice looking machete. As you can see, it's a good bit longer than the Mezco machete, which is more screen accurate once again, and just really brutal looking. This Jason also has two other things that could be considered an accessory, but I'm going to save it, and we'll cover it up next in Sculpt. With this Jason figure, as with most Mezco Cinema Fear figures, the look is somewhat stylized. Mezco has kind of trod a really kind of strange dividing line between realistic and stylized, where it was kind of hard to tell what was supposed to be what. Parts of it look grimy and dingy like they should in the movie, and other parts kind of looked a little bit cartoony. Most notably, proportions, which is where this figure suffers quite a bit. The figure features the basic recipe for any jacket-wearing character. The jacket is a softer, rubbery plastic, and pretty much everything else is sculpted, including the sleeves. There is a lot of good detail in this figure. The neck has some really nice muscularness to it. The shirt is decently sculpted. It's got all the wrinkles and a bunch of holes and tears in it, looking more and more disgusting in certain areas than in others. It hangs down over his belt a bit, and then if we lead him back, we can get a good look at the pants. There's some minor rips and cuts, but overall the pants are in almost a little too good of shape. They did a good job with like the texturing of the skin underneath the holes and all that. He features his machete holder on his waist, which you can take and easily slip his machete into. You can hold it right there. The way it's made, there are no sides to it. It's just a singular little flap to cover it. So you can get the machete sticking out at some unrealistic angles. So you kind of have to pose it within. So you could have it like this, where it looks like it's cutting through the pocket, which isn't good. The boots are nice, standard. They did a flare down here at the bottom of the pants to allow the shoes to stick out and not be hindered. The jacket itself is pretty nice. Once again, it feels really stylized for the fold over here where the zipper is coming open. It's almost like a permanent windswept look. But the detail on it is pretty nice. All the right lines and all the major details that it should have. The sleeves have the quilted pattern that they should. And the damage on them is pretty minimal. Just a couple little tears and rips. You can see his ratty undershirt sticking out here. The hands are something I really like, especially the left hand. You can see it has all kinds of veins and lines and things in it. Another part that I need to touch on with paint, but I think they did a really good job in making the hands look really nasty and disgusting. And as I said, they fit that kind of cartoony style. Now, sculpt-wise, there is one thing that kills this figure. Absolutely kills this figure. And that is the head. You take a look at the body in general. That head is tiny. In a lot of the older movies, and even in this one, I mean, Jason kind of has a large head, and part of that's for the character, and part of that's because you have an actor with a lot of makeup and prosthetics on his head. This guy's a pinhead. And not like in the Hellraiser way, that would be kind of cool. And because of that, the mask is also ridiculously tiny. It does, however, have an okay sculpt to it. It's not the worst. It's a basic hockey mask. I think it could be a little better defined, but it does have some nice little scratches inlaid into it. The straps are right. The hair is another area that I have to have a major problem with. It's sculpted up at the top and then kind of a rubbery plastic down at the bottom, particularly back here. But it's not really rubbery, just enough to be kind of pliable, so that when he's staring straight ahead, his hair is flying backwards, and if he's looking down, it's way up in the air. And he just looks ridiculous. Mezco did go ahead and put in the detail. You can see he has the one eye, the one good eye in here, and the dead eye in this eye hole. As for the NECA version, there is a lot more detail on this figure. The shirt goes for a much more realistic look than the Mezco one did. Everything's kind of bigger. It appears to follow a human torso a lot better. You can see the muscles underneath it and the shape of the figure, or the character. And everything's a little less exaggerated than the Mezco one, and much more screen accurate. But also does not hang down as low past the belt as the Mezco one did. The pants have a little bit more damage than the Mezco ones did, especially around here. And they look a lot more realistic than the Mezco one. This is more of a shredding action, where Mezco just kind of had this indistinct hole. There's a little bit more. There's one on the knee here, and on this knee as well. The bottoms are much more shredded, which allows, instead of having such a dramatic flare at the boot to allow foot articulation, it looks a little more natural. This Jason also has a functioning machete holder, sculpted a little nicer than the Mezco one, I must say. It looks a little more realistic, and it is a full pouch. So when you take the machete, put it in there, it's going to look much better. The only difficulty with it is because of the way it's made, you can accidentally get the machete to go behind the holder instead of into it. Once you get in there, though, it looks really cool. And it helps, once again, that they did the shredding on the pants, because I'm assuming what that's supposed to be from is him tossing that machete in the holster and slicing up his pants. This Jason's boots feature a little bit more detail than the Mezco ones. The Mezco ones are pretty cut and dry. This one you can actually see the different parts in the boot itself, the different way it was constructed. The treads are a bit deeper. And you just get the feeling it's all a lot more movie accurate. The jacket itself, same idea as the Mezco one, a soft rubber piece. Once again, I feel like I'm a broken record here. The detail is a lot nicer. The pockets are much more realistic looking. There's different types of stitches and things in the coat itself. There's more wear and tear, even subtle things. Like here at the bottom, there's kind of a frayed edge. Continue to the back, more stitching. The wrinkles are better. It just looks more realistic in general. Also, unlike the Mezco version, they put in the cross-hatching up here at the top to be movie accurate. And the collar itself, while the Mezco was just a flat piece of plastic, has texture on it to make it look like it's almost a little bit fuzzy. Another added bonus is, instead of being one piece, it's actually almost two pieces. You have this main part here, and the upper area is only loosely attached, which is attached up at the collar back here. So being more of a separate piece, it gives it a lot more motion to move around and look realistic. The sleeves continue the checkered look, but there is, once again, more wear and tear on them. They look a lot more beat up, a lot more frayed coming down here. The undershirt sticks out further, and you can see there's a lot more damage to it. For the hands, I almost feel like they're not as cool looking as the Mezco ones. These are more realistic looking. They make more sense, but the Mezco one just kind of had that over-the-top feel that made it just a little bit cooler. As for the head, it's proportional on this one. You really can't ask for much more than that when it comes to having the other figure. Let's see, the neck on this one also has a lot of musculature to it, although it's much more deformed looking to fit with the character. The mask is larger. It fits the shape well, except right here it has like a mold line on it, and it kind of takes a sharper angle going back. Which stinks, because it's not mirrored on the other side, so it kind of just gives him this flat edge. It's a little distracting. But overall, the mask is well done. It's well defined. It looks pretty close to right for the movie. The straps are nice. The head is much lumpier than the Mezco version, which is really cool. And the hair is a softer plastic that actually is pliable enough where it will sit down from gravity. And then when you move the head, it will just come with it. One of the big advantages to the NECA figure over the Mezco figure is that the mask is removable on this one. Pop it off there. Has a softer rubber strap, so it will sit on there just fine. And then we get the barely seen in the movie gross Jason face. And they did a really good job on this. There's not a lot of references to go on from the movie itself. I'm sure they probably got some photos from the movie makers and behind the scenes or whatever. But he's got the nasty, like, hair lip of death. The exposed gums are all bloody. The dead eye and then the normal eye. And he just looks vicious. He looks really angry. Now, I have made a modification to this figure. When you get him out of the package, he has the long hair attached, for some reason, to the straps of the mask. So, halfway down his head, you have the sculpted hair up here, and then it just stops. So, with the mask on, he has the long hair, and with it off, his hair just ends. So I cut it off the mask, and while I didn't even do the best job, it's glued on there to kind of pick up where the sculpted hair left behind. It's a strange thing that they didn't do, but seeing the alternative of the Mezco figure, you almost can't complain. It's nice to have a removable mask, and it's nice to have hair that actually falls in a realistic looking manner. Another plus is you could pop this head off and attach the bag head from the beginning of the movie. It's well detailed. There's a lot of nice folds and lines. It wasn't so much of a bag like in Friday the 13th Part 2. It was more of almost a wrap, like a mummy wrap. And they did a good job of recreating it. You have the single eye back here in the recesses of the mask. And this is a really nicely done extra head. With the Mezco figure, you actually could get him with the bag head from a Previews exclusive figure. I don't have it to review, so I'm going to say that it is a possibility that you could have it, but I don't have it in hand to review itself, and in all honesty, buying one figure from each, gotta give a plus to NECA for letting you have either look, as opposed to Mezco, where you have to buy an entirely different figure just for an exchangeable head, which is too small. Next up, we're going to look at paint. And the painting on the Mezco one is okay. It's a little bland. It's a little coloring book to some degree. The colors are not really blended. The jacket's pretty much a blue. The shirt's pretty much a dull eggshell white-ish. The skin tone is probably the most dramatically changed, as it has a bunch of dirt and things like that washed onto it. The shoes are almost completely flat black. The pants are kind of the same brownish. Overall, it's not incredibly appealing to look at paint-wise. It's just a little dull and flat. And the biggest problem is right here. I couldn't decide where to put this with sculpt or paint, but there is a hole sculpted in his shirt that sits, no matter almost how you pose him, above his pants. But they decided to paint flesh tone on the inside of it. Makes absolutely no sense. It looks horrible. In the mask, it looks dirty. Doesn't look incredibly screen accurate, but it does look dirty. They got the lines in the right place. The eye, the dead eye, the blue is kinda cool on it, but it isn't very realistic. And then back here with the hair, he's completely Goldilocks. And there's no texture to it whatsoever paint-wise. It's just flat, blondish brown hair. On the NECA version, I think the paint's done a lot better. The shirt looks grimy and nasty. There's all different tones in it, all different layers of... looks like sweat and dirt and all that stuff. He has the same little hole at the bottom of his shirt, but you can see it's painted the same color as his pants, which actually do look like faded pants. There's some brown on them, especially towards the bottom, making them look dirty. Same with the shoes, black, but with a bunch of brown dirt and stuff on them. Biggest issue with these is the shreds in the clothes. It looks like they tried to get a flesh tone in there, but it just kind of scratched the surface and got stuck, so it's a little bit on the pants instead of on the figure. Up here on the jacket, once again more, there's dirt and grime on it, different layers of it, different bits and pieces. It just adds to the effect so much more. The hands aren't quite as dirty and nasty as the Mezco, but they are definitely dirty. The different layers of color here with the torn up sleeves, very well done. The mask is much more movie accurate. It's more of almost a pale yellow with brown on it. Once again, the markings are there and they're worn off in a really nice fashion. The hair is the right color, darker, and there's a lot of detail added into it, a lot of dry brushing and stuff to bring out highlights in it. The flesh tone on the face is a bit paler than I think it needs to be, but the other stuff is awesome. The teeth are yellow and nasty. He's got like the blood around the mouth. The pure white eye is just cool. Very nicely detailed. They even have a highlight on his good eye. The bag head could probably use a little extra. I mean, it's white, it's got dirt on it. It could be a little dirtier, I think. And also the skin on the eye in there is a little red. A little redder than it should be. You can kind of look at it down here below and see about the color they used. So it's a little darker than it needs to be. But I mean, this works. They could have made it a lot dirtier and probably would have looked a little more menacing. For articulation, the Mezco one, once again, this is a place where it comes up short. He has a ball-jointed head, ball-jointed shoulders. He has a cut elbow on both arms. So the poses you can get that in is pretty minimal. You can rotate at the wrist, which is actually where the undershirt comes out of the jacket. He has a ball-jointed waist and ball-jointed feet. In a series where every single Jason released prior to this, and there were 4, he had hinged elbows. This is so disappointing to see these stupid, stupid cut joints. For Neca, they have a ball-jointed head. You can also turn side to side just as well, like the Mezco one can. I don't know if I demonstrated that or not. When you put the bag head on, you lose a little bit of that side to side because of the bottom of the bag, but you still get some good up and down in it. Ball-jointed shoulders. Hinge swivel elbows, very nice. Ball-jointed wrists. Ball-jointed waist, but you really only get a back and forth motion, and it's pretty limited by the shirt. The shirt clings very tightly. It also kind of pre-poses him leaned back a little bit, which is a little on the disappointing side. And then he also has ball-jointed feet as well. So overall with these two figures, I'm going to say the winner is the Neca version. I think most people would and probably already have agreed with me on this one. The Neca version is more movie accurate, it's higher detailed, better articulation, better paint, better sculpt. It lacks accessories, at least weapons, like the Mezco one does, but it makes up for it by the machete being very movie accurate and very nice looking. The Mezco one just doesn't have a lot going for it. Its main selling point at the time was we thought it was the only 7-inch Friday the 13th remake figure we were going to get. If people had told me back when this guy came out that we were going to be getting this guy in the not too distant future, well, who am I kidding? I would have bought it anyway because I couldn't have waited. But I would have maybe not been quite so depressed once I got this guy out of the package. The Neca figure is the one you want. It's the one to recommend. Honestly, if I was reviewing these two separately, this might be the first figure in Outside the Box reviews that I would solidly not recommend. Most of the stuff I have in my collection, I like. I bought it because I knew I'd like it. So I really haven't come across anything that I'd be like, no, don't get that. This is on the list. This is one of the few things in my collection that not too happy with. He actually sits behind this guy on the shelf, and you can't really see him. But he's there because I have him, and I don't really think there's any reason to get rid of him. But the NECA one is the clear winner. That has been another Outside the Box review. Hopefully you guys like the new format of the new Figure Wars. Please leave me some feedback below. Tell me what you think, anything I could do to improve it, or if you really like it and you think I should keep it. I'm planning several more of these to come in the next couple months. I want to spread them out, but there'll be normal reviews, as usual, coming soon.